This is MFG Out Loud. Courageous conversations about sales and marketing for today's manufacturers. With your hosts, Ray Zaganto and Allison DeFore.
Hey, Trailblazers, welcome to the very latest episode of MFG Out Loud. I think we're actually up to episode 32, and we are so thrilled to have with us a really special guest. With us today is Rich Sade. He is he's an old school manufacturing guy of the sorts that I hope to be able to put myself in that category, in that been around, done a lot, seen a lot, is at a point in his career where he could probably step back and do anything he wanted, and is actively looking to get back into it and buy his own business. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but let me give you the true story about our guest. As I say, it involves everything from growth to turnaround to startup experience. A seasoned manufacturing guy, like I said, who can't wait to get in there and mix it up again. As I mentioned, he's looking to buy a company right now and just keep running with it. His take on large versus small companies and the race to manufacturing 4.0 is he's got some great insights in that area as well. So much we want to draw on, and so little time today, so I'm not gonna waste too much more time up front here. But what we're hoping to get our hands around today is get an understanding of the logical progression of your journey, Rich, and how you along the way continue to embrace new tech and innovation. So what a pleasure having Rich Sade join us today. Rich, thanks for being here.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Allison and Ray, for the invitation. Yeah, it's an exciting time in our industry of really what's going on, and I'll give you a quick background.
Yeah,
I started out as an engineer in operations. My education is in operations management, and getting into the industry at a very young age, I had a lot of opportunity to grow through the operational side of businesses. And it really got into the shop floor type of manufacturing in the ground roots of that in the early days. I was very lucky to have a career path in actually being hired by a Fortune 400 company very early on in the mid 80s, and that is what I call, that's my MBA.
Yeah,
because quite frankly, when you get into the large company, especially during those times when we were having competition from offshore, we did a lot of innovative things to combat the offshore, if you will, invasion. And one of the things that I look back, on my career was those ground roots, that bottom line, where I came from, the mentors that I had, and seeing the growth of technology and obviously the changes that manufacturing has gone through from 1.0 to, now we're talking 4.0. So during that transition through all those years, I had a lot of challenging jobs and a lot of good jobs and a lot of experience. I used to tell the story. I was 150 to 200,000 miles in the air, and 100 nights out, I come home and the dog really didn't know me. So,
yeah.
So I've been very lucky. I went all the way up to a COO level. That was my last position. Currently, my wife and I started a company in 2006. She's been in logistics for 30-some years, and it's a home-based logistics company and supply chain management, more on the freight side. So I've been helping with her with that for the last few years. But getting to your point about what's going on, she said, you really got the itch again. And I thought, yeah, I think I do. I don't want to be back to where I was, 100 nights out and all that. But I have been looking at a company to do an acquisition here in the city I live in. So
great.
With that, That's kind of my background. So operations, I've been on the sales side, CEO level, and international acquisitions. I did a lot of that through the years.
One of the things I thought was really cool when we had our conversation a few weeks ago, I mean, from the breadth of your experience going, as you said, being able to get your MBA with that Fortune, 400 firm early on, and to see what was going on at such a high level. And then you'd even shared some of the drama and challenges associated with family-owned businesses, and some of those challenges coming in as an outsider, and trying to help make sense in those operations. So I don't think that education for you stopped after the Fortune 400 firm. I think it just began then.
Oh no, you continually, it's like anything. There's an evolution to every side of the business, whether it's a large company or a small company. They all have the same issues. They're just different in size, and different in scope. Yeah. But technically, when you really look at it, you have problems with HR, you have problems with the manufacturing, you have a sales element, products. You go into, do you want to expand? Do you want to do another acquisition? Do you want to get bigger? Do you want to get smaller? Do you want to diversify yourself in other products? And, all those type of things.
Yeah. So. I think is telling is that those are all major, all of those areas have a major impact and influence on a business. And as you're describing them, it's kind of like, do I wear the blue suit or the gray suit today? It's just a very, it's like, well, if this is what we have to do, then we're going to go do it. I'll tell you really where the successful part of this journey has been is taking the elements of a large company and then applying that to a small company. And what you just described was you got to wear a lot of hats in a small company. Yeah. One time I had about 100 engineers scattered across the globe. And when I took over the small family-owned company, I had 2 engineers and me. So, trying to accomplish the same goals. Yeah. And so with technology, though, today, and the change has been in technology and the systems and softwares, hardware, and the connectivity of what's happened, it really has changed the scope for small businesses to get that big business look. Yeah. With a smaller investment than there was probably 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah, and one thing I am really curious about is, I think instead of asking you, why on earth you would want to do this all over again, instead of, retire, semi-retire, I think the real question I'm curious about is, what are you most excited about with the possibility of this new acquisition? What excites you about coming in and, what do you want to do with it type of thing?
Well, first, my wife wants me out of the house. But no, that's a great question, Allison. I still have drive, and I still have the passion to take a business and expand it and grow it. There's nothing more exciting to see employees. And I have a thing in my a statement that I use, and it's called leadership. And this is from John Quincy Adams, and I really believe in this. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. And I love to lead. I think the leadership side of this, put the business aside, but being a mentor, leadership, and taking a company that's probably just it's been trugging along, and growing it, and then growing those employees and customers and having those relationships with vendors in the supply chain and growing that is just a thrill to me. And I got one more left in me, I do believe. So
that's awesome. That is awesome. And you bring up there's some interesting dots that I think need to be connected here. With your earlier experience back in the big company, and at that time, it really was only large companies that could afford the investment of the sophisticated tools, such as they were at that time, to put in place, for the whether it was automation on the shop floor or any sorts of use of efficient use of data and those types of things. And as you so correctly pointed out, in the last even just the last 5 or 10 years, the cost and user friendliness of those things has come down at such a dramatic rate that it really is now accessible to the smaller organizations. And I mean smaller organizations. I've seen 5-10 person businesses that are doing some pretty advanced machine monitoring, or they've got a really cool ERP system that you'd have figured they were running on QuickBooks instead of anything else. I'm curious how you see that playing a role in the next one you got in you.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick example of where the light bulb came on for me, and it was about 8 or 10 years ago, probably about 8 years ago. I put in a new ERP system, a new platform in a small company. We spent, let's just say $500,000,
yeah,
which is a lot of money for a small company.
Sure it is.
But I looked at it and I said, this investment is going to come back to us threefold. And right out of the box, we had an opportunity to quote on some products for a company. This is going to be funny in a way, but we manufactured hardware for porta potties. One of our products. If you go into a porta potty, every handle and every hinge you see in it was the stuff that I made. So I went after the number one guy that's in the business or manufacturer, and I said, hey, we really would like to entertain your business. We've put in some new technology. This is what we're going to do. And the VP of operations looked at me and he said, we just put in that same system. I said, really? So we started down a path to connect the two systems together, sharing data to the point where they could actually come into our system because we had parallel systems to look at their orders, actually enter their own orders, expedite orders, and eliminated a lot of the communication process. In the meantime, I thought, geez, this is pretty interesting. Here I just grew $1 million customer. I didn't have to add any people. I obviously did that initial investment. It's pretty seamless. We spent another $20,000 with consultants and actually got that technology between the two companies up and running. So the point there is that, yes, you can invest technology, but you have to look at the sales side of it. Manufacturing 4.0 is just not for the shop floor anymore. My belief is that you have to go out and sell that technology into the supply chain to make sure that you can open up a whole new market and not even realize that it's there until you explore that. So that technology and those investments for a small company does come back with a decent ROI if you properly execute it.
I got to ask you a follow-on question to that one, because there are some years ago it was very much the typical approach for manufacturers. You only share so much. There's a lot of you keep things close to your vest. You don't want the customers getting too far under the tent in your business, those types of things. It sounds like you took a bold step, even 8 or 10 years ago, to kind of invite that level of collaboration with a customer, and it worked. Did you encounter any resistance internally to do that? Was there any pushback?
Oh, sure. My office manager in customer service lost control.
Yeah.
Okay, you lose control. Hey, that's my. I want to build this one, and that's me. And no, let's build it together. Let's go out there and be the leader in the industry. Let's build it together. And guess what? Our margins on that business were incredible because they looked at it this way. They eliminated cost on their side.
Yeah.
Okay, so you look at that trick.
Yeah.
They eliminated costs. I was able to get more money for the product based on eliminating costs on both sides.
Yeah.
Now, did you feel trepidation going into that at all, or were you like in with both feet?
We I say it this way: we dated for a little bit, and then we got married. Definitely, because we both were doing an experiment that we didn't know what that end of that tunnel looked like. So once we started going down the road, even got to a point where they were paying their bills in less than 15 days. So from every aspect of the business, cash flow, supply chain, cost, on-time delivery, quality of product. If we would have a quality problem, it was looked at and taken care of very quickly because they could send it through a portal into our system and we reacted.
So
but I really think that's just one example, and I know we're short on time. But really, the point there is that the funds that small companies have are not as big, or the budgets aren't as big as the Fortune 400, Fortune 100 companies. And and those larger companies are going to invest in technology. But you have to look at your operation, and I'll tell this to everybody, especially on 4.0. Put the money where you're going to get the most bang out of the buck. And again, it's not making chips, it's not stamping parts. It's where do you lose your information and your data control that cost you money along the way. Now, it might be connectivity to your machines, so you're getting data because you have quality problems. That's one aspect. And I could go down the list, which is 100 of them. But really is, if you want to get in the game and you want to sell yourself as being a leader in your particular sector of business, and you want to get into manufacturing 4.0, really walk through it. Walk through what is really your pain points and what you need to address. I know companies right now that are still operating stamping machines or specialty machines that were built in the 50s and the 40s, and they're connected to their ERP software. They're collecting data off of it, and it's amazing when they look at the data saying, my gosh, I didn't know we operated that way. How can we change? And, that's what drives the change and the injecting efficiencies into the operation. And again, it's just not on the shop floor. It's processing, it's operations, it's sales.
Yeah.
Once we did this experiment, I went out, we sold the heck out of our technology and our software, or I should say our platform that we were on, to other companies, and shared data with them. It was a great sales tool. So
was it great? Well, because your ERP vendor now, or your system vendor now they've got this case study that they can broadcast. And the halo effect for you guys is phenomenal.
Yeah, well, you got to be careful with that because you don't want to give it all away.
Yeah. Keep some for yourself.
No, they came to us and said, "You're the only guys doing this." And I'm saying, at your level, and I said, "Well, I've always been a risk taker, but I've always looked to the future. What are our pain points? What do we need to do? And is it worth the investment?" It's again, the equipment is important, your processes are important, your tooling, et cetera, but you really have to look at, I call it the 40,000 foot level of your operation. And what are those pain points, and what does manufacturing 4.0 give to us? What does our platform give to us? Can we bring those two together and create a really good system that we can, drive those efficiencies and sell it? So.
Yep. And you're really hitting on something that resonates. I'm working on a project right now, and the client had mentioned, he says, their philosophy is on the production floor. He goes, that's where we make sales. and to modify his words a little bit to fit your thing, to the extent that they can control the information, the flow of the data and the information, that's where the profit gets made or lost. It's because it's easy to track. Do I have widgets in a box? You don't know, how much extra legwork did it take, or how many trips did this thing make around the factory? There's a lot of places where money leaks.
Well, the company I'm looking to acquire, I've been doing my due diligence, and I'm actually been looking at all aspects, obviously, of the company. And I'm looking, oh my God, look at the waste. Oh, geez, I'm like a kid in a candy store, just look at my chops because I see it. And that's the other aspect of this, and that's the point I want to make is people get complacent in these businesses. I took over a family-owned company. It's a 90-year-old company 16 years ago, and, it was going bankrupt. We turned it around because I really, truly came in and had a different look at of what was really going on, and they were bleeding and hemorrhaging all over the place, everywhere. And it didn't take long, in a few tweaks and a few fixes, and then coming up with a 5-year, 10-year plan, 3-year plan, 3, 5, and 10, and then executing that totally changed. And the company tripled in size. We did a couple of acquisitions, and here I am. But those are the key things that I think when people are out there looking to increase their business or to get more efficient, you really got to look at the whole picture. Just don't say, I'm going to go buy that new 5-axis CNC machine. That's important. Okay, but what are you going to do with it? Well, we're going to make these parts. Okay, but what can it do for the rest of the operation? And keep that open mind of what can that one little change on the shop floor do for the rest of the company, and how are you going to execute that, and then how are you going to sell that?
It feels like your approach is more holistic, right? You really take into consideration the entire operation. Do you think some business owners and leaders get maybe some tunnel vision and forget to look at the whole, the business as a whole?
Okay, here's the deal. You ready?
Ready.
CEOs want to talk, hey, we've got a plan to go to 4.0, manufacturing 4.0. That's what we're going to do. And they do a good rah, 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 right? Or CEOs or whoever, or the chairman of the board. This is what we want to do. We got to go down that path. Just like JIT, just like lean, just like everything. But they don't understand it. They don't get that you just can't make that statement. You have to look at a global look at that within internally and really understand what that means, and really understand what does that mean to the market? What does that mean to the customer? What does that mean to the supply chain? Really, what are you trying to accomplish? And I've been consulting since I left the other company, and I go in and they say, Rich, yeah, we want to go to 4.0. Okay, so what's your objectives? What do you want to do? Oh, we want to go to 4.0. Okay, let's break it down. And by the time you get out of a 6-hour meeting with them, they're exhausted because they didn't realize what they were talking about.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I shouldn't say they didn't know what to talk about. They didn't know that it means a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting close to wrap up, which always makes me sad because there's so much goodness here. Last but not least, what advice would you give to our listeners? Maybe what small shops need to do more of to start growing, or to maybe something pivotal that you would suggest they do to head in the right direction and really.
Well, I'll use your it's a funnel approach, right? You got a company, you've got all these different departments and all these other things going on. And my advice is to funnel it in to a plan that makes sense especially in a small company, that you could take some baby steps and crawl a little bit and do a 2-year, 1-year plan. And again, it could be anything like buying equipment, connecting to your ERP system, collecting more data. And really that's the key, I guess, is collecting data. How do you collect the data and what are you going to do with it? You know, a lot of companies are data rich. They just don't know what to do with it. So figure out what you want to do with that data. And how do you want to execute that data to the rest of the team? And what does it mean to the team? Again, I go back to what does it mean to sales? What does it mean to the supply chain? And really understand that. Then you can start executing. And you don't have to go out there and spend $5 million on a new ERP system. Oh, we got to connect every machine and collect even more data. You can start out very easily with the data that you have, and there's tools out there that you can use to decipher what you want to do, and then use that data, merge the two together, and execute a plan, or put a plan together and start executing it. And you'll learn things as you go along and make those tweaks. And that's important for a small company because, again, you just don't have the resources. I mean, you know, I had hundreds of manufacturing engineers across the country when I used to have 7 plants. Small company, you don't, right? So you're going to say, well, I'm the president. I'm going to say, well, let's go out and connect all these CNC machines and collect data. Well, who's going to do it? You know, and it's expensive to do it. Why don't we take one machine and learn from that, right?
I like that.
There you go.
Okay? Let's take one machine, and then let's add another machine. Hey, we learned this. And what does that mean? What does this data mean? So that's my recommendation to, you know, at a very high level. There's a lot of other things that you can do. But again, what does that mean to the company? And what does that mean to your customers and your supply chain? It's very, very important. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of time and a lot of money if you don't take those baby steps in the beginning.
Yeah. That is awesome. That's not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but Rich, you have insights and a voice and things to say that this industry needs to hear about. And I hope that as your journey continues, you take the time and perhaps come back and see us again, or are able to put the effort into posts on LinkedIn or whatever.
And I do.
Yeah.
Can I do a little advertisement?
Why not?
So if anybody's interested in me to speak or give a lecture, I do that as I go along the road. I've done many of them.
Yeah.
I sit on several boards. So if you would like to email me, it's rsadecl@outlook.com. rsadecl@outlook.com.
Cool. And we'll get
email me, and I'd be glad to answer any more questions in depth.
That's awesome.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes, and along with any other items mentioned in this episode. And we just want to thank you so much for your time, your energy, and your wisdom. I know our audience appreciates it, and Ray and I learn something every time we do this.
Oh, yeah.
Mitch, thank you. And for those of you listening, we thank you. Your time and attention mean the world to us, truly. And I know there's a lot of you that listen that aren't yet subscribed. So if you would please do that, we would really appreciate it. And if you find value in this, consider leaving a 5-star review. That will show other people this is something that's worth their time too. And if you're feeling like being part of a courageous tribe, you can go to mfgoutloud.com and subscribe courageously to our newsletter, and we will keep you in the loop.
And it's awesome.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna use that. It's gonna be their new quote. According to Rich Sade, we're awesome.
That's right.
Oh, Ray, you want to take us out, buddy?
I certainly will. Hey, all you trailblazers out there, remember, it's important that you keep manufacturing out loud because we need you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to MFG Out Loud with Ray Zaganto and Allison DeFore. You can subscribe and find show notes at mfgoutloud.com.